But the problem is you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
even if you did know what was going on with yourself, you wouldn't know what to do about it because, or let me go back. You might know what to do about it, but you're not going to ask for help because you've always been told that asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So
100%.
so these issues just continue to fester and grow like a tumor until you get to a point where you need an operation or you need chemotherapy or radiation to get rid of the tumor. And that's the point I was at.
Awesome. Today we have Lieutenant Colonel Jay Kopelman. You are currently working with, well, we'll just go through your background. You were a business advisor for Semper and America Fund. I had them on. Awesome group. I really appreciate everything they did for me in the early stages. Now you're the executive director of Mission Within Foundation, and that's why we're going to be talking today. You were also special operations force liaison officer for the First Marines Expeditionary Force. I try to do a fish diagram of your history or of like your career trajectory and what you did in the military. Like, I think you described it best in your episode with Jocko. And it's like you did what you wanted. You just kind of floated around. Probably wasn't the best idea for getting promoted, but it was fun. And I was hoping we could talk a bit about that. You've also
Yeah.
authored 2 books. We'll touch on those briefly. If you want to hear more about those, go to the Jocko podcast. You guys covered it really well in episode 449. And you're a proud father of 1 son, and you placed second in 2023 IBJJF World Masters Jiu-Jitsu competition. Thank you for taking your time and jumping on here. And we just start. Where did you grow up, and what'd you do in early days, and what led to the military?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and uh, lived there till my senior year in college. My parents moved. They moved to Florida, like all old snowbirds do. They ended up moving down there to Tampa in 1981. I went back to college and pretty much have been back to Pittsburgh maybe 3 or 4 times since then, just for like a wedding or I
Yeah.
went to my 40th high school reunion back in 2018. So it's been a while since then. And yeah, and so ended up going the military route because I really didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was teaching high school, coaching high school football, and thought there had to be something more. So went to the recruiter, and next thing I knew, I was in officer candidate school and starting a military career that I had no idea would span 21 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you Steelers fan? My family, they're all from Newcastle area, so they used to take the
Oh,
train in
okay.
and watch all the games and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I grew up a Steelers fan, Penn State football when I was a
Yeah,
kid. My
man,
father
they just
had
got eliminated. That was sad.
yeah, they did. They got
Yeah.
eliminated pretty bad. So that was a bad game at the end. But yeah, I grew up going to Penn State football games. My father was a Penn State alum. He had season tickets when I was a little kid. So uh, got interested in sports and primarily football that way growing up. So
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah,
yeah.
you went to university in Miami, and what led you to want to be a pilot? Was that something that you always aspired to, or is it just what you
Nope,
fell into?
nope. It just seemed like it'd be something fun to do. Uh,
Yeah,
Pretty much how I've decided to do everything in my life. Seems like fun and a challenge. Something that nobody I knew did. So I said, yeah, let's go do this. It's different, it's challenging, and looks like it could be a whole lot of fun. So yeah,
absolutely.
that's
I
the only
can't.
reason.
I can't relate to anything more than that. My trajectory. I was in home ec. I took home ec because that's where all the chicks were,
Right.
and that's when September 11th happened. So you see the jets hit, And then after that, they gave us a day out of school to go take the ASVAB. And I was like, sure, I've never, like, whatever. My grandfather's, one was Navy, one was Air Force. So I was like, okay, cool. So there was the idea of military, but it wasn't anything I aspired to do. I wanted to go to college and, play sports. And then went in, scored the ASVAB, got in some trouble. And then they put me back into the military, and they gave me an option either to go to jail or join the military. And then
All
after that, I
right.
was like, all right, cool. So then I went and talked to the recruiter, and he's like, well, you can do, like a linguist. And I was like, no. I was like, that sounds horrible. He's like, well, what about EOD? He's like, it's really hard. No one ever passes. He's like, but if you pass, it's pretty cool. You work with ATF to blow shit up. And I was like, that's not a real job. And he's like, and they give you $10,000. And I was like, to me, poor kid from East Tennessee, I was like, that's like $1 million. So off
Right.
I went,
Yeah.
met a whole group of people just like me. But what
Yeah.
was your
Well,
time like?
so, my career was, as, as we were talking about earlier, it was kind of what I wanted to do, not what the Marine Corps wanted me to do so much.
Yeah.
Um, I was always approaching my monitor before it was time for orders to get get to pick and choose where I would go next. Uh, so it was pretty fragmented, right? Like started out as a pilot, then went to a small unit, jumping out of airplanes, then went to do the instructor track, then went to a major command, then to an even bigger command, combat time in Iraq, leading Iraqi forces, coming back, being asked to stand up MARSOC. So just, back and forth kind of all over the place, but I had a good time. I got to see and experience a lot of the Marine Corps from, a number of different angles by doing what I did. And so just a ton of fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think you were in Iraq, Fallujah 20 or 2004, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. In Fallujah in 2004, 2005. So,
I
yeah,
was down
spent
in Biop
time.
down during
Okay.
that, and that was a wild time. I remember when that all kicked off. Like I didn't have anything to do with Fallujah, but I know that the impact of that, like it trickled down to everywhere. I want to say for about a week things were quiet because I did a lot of the QRF. We went to basically any VBIT or IED within, I guess, an hour's drive of Biop. So we're going all the different directions and everything. And then you could tell all the focus went to Fallujah, and it was like crickets everywhere else. That was a
Yeah.
wild time.
Yeah. Well, going after all the BBIEDs that kept you busy. So,
Yeah, it was never ending. And the ones we missed, you'd
yeah.
hear it here. It hit like ECP3, and you just knew there wasn't anything left up there, and you'd have to go up there and do the post blast analysis. It was wild times back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Absolutely.
And then you wrote your book about a dog named Lava. I thought that was really cool. I won't go into full depth like you did in episode 449 with Jocko, but I was just curious, how did you meet Lava? And just a brief story of that.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you got to weave this all together, right? And as President Trump says, it's the weave telling a story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what happened is I had Iraqi Army Battalion that I was taking in a Fallujah for mentoring in combat operations with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines out of Hawaii, the Lava Dogs. And they had found a small dog, a puppy, 5-week-old puppy during a firefight, kept him at their CP. Long story short, I mean, it's a long story, it would take
It
up a lot
is.
of time, but long story
It's a
short,
good story. Should go read
and
it.
ended up getting the dog back to the States. He was my dog here in the US for 11 years. The name of the book is From Baghdad with Love, and it's available everywhere books are sold.
Yeah,
So,
I'll put it in the show notes, and we'll definitely promote it. I didn't realize that that was a book that you read, and until I was doing a little bit more deep dive yesterday into who you are and prep for this, and I was like, oh shit! If normally I would read any book that you would have sent out, but that's not really why we got connected. We got
right.
connected by a Mountie named Jeremy Hudick, and we'll get into that shortly. So after the military, Where'd you go?
Yeah, after military, I retired, didn't really go anywhere. I was on book tour and doing a lot of speaking engagements all across the country, all, different parts of the world even. So going to, the Netherlands, Brazil, just traveling around, promoting the book and doing the public speaking, getting paid to do that. Ended up going to grad school in San Diego at UC San Diego in 2011 and worked in healthcare for probably 7 years. So both for, huge company and for a smaller company where I was one of their executives when I resigned from there in May of 2020 and ended up moving up to Idaho for a couple of years, full time up there, Southeast Idaho, just kind of back and forth. Wasn't too terribly interested in working, and then decided, yeah, you know what, I really want to do something again. Ended up at Semper America's Fund as a business advisor in their apprenticeship program. So working with veteran entrepreneurs and folks who are hobbyists as well, but with an eye on entrepreneurship, helping them grow and build their businesses. While I was there, I had an opportunity that I had heard about a couple years before to go on a retreat with other veterans to do psychedelic-assisted therapy down in Mexico with an organization called Mission Within. So I did that this past March and did two different medicines. One is called ibogaine, comes from the iboga plant out of equatorial Africa, and the other one is 5-MeO DMT, also called bufo or toad, because it comes from the Sonoran desert toad. They secrete a gland, crystallize it, scrape it, and then you smoke it, essentially out of a crack pipe. Is pretty much what it is. But the psychedelic experiences were long overdue, very much needed, and really just very much life-changing for me. So I did that, and the founder of the Mission Within had started a nonprofit called Mission Within Foundation. And so I raised $1 million right off the bat for that foundation. He asked me to be on their board and then president of the board. And then eventually about August, September, asked me to be, he said, why don't you just become an executive director? So I was doing my full-time day job at Semper America's Fund, and then also trying to run this nonprofit, and it started to become untenable. So in December, just a month ago, 3 weeks ago, really, I became full-time executive director of Mission Within Foundation, and our goal is to raise a large number of dollars this year. So I have a minimum goal of $5 million for 2025. Awesome. And we provide scholarships for veterans and first responders to participate in psychedelic-assisted therapy retreats.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So you talked about it was well overdue. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. So you had some issues with PTSD and TBI, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
What did that kind of look like in your life? I mean, it looks like different in everybody's. Like mine, I was very aggressive, a lot of drinking, a lot of fighting. In addition to that, like, go ahead.
Yeah, probably not so different, right? The TBI can present itself in many ways. For me, it was a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Just little things would set me off.
Oh, yeah.
The PTSD, I was, of course, hyper vigilant, hyper reactive, had all the classic symptoms that the VA will tell you exist, or that the DSM-5
Yeah.
psychiatric disorders will tell you uh, those are the classic symptoms of PTSD and traumatic brain injury. So I had them all. It ruined my marriage. My wife ended up throwing me out in 2015, and my son didn't really want to have very much to do with me either. So I don't blame either of them at this point. You know, I was completely in the wrong, but the problem is you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
even if you did know what was going on with yourself, you wouldn't know what to do about it because, or let me go back. You might know what to do about it, but you're not going to ask for help because you've always been told that asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So
100%.
so these issues just continue to fester and grow like a tumor until you get to a point where you need an operation or you need chemotherapy or radiation to get rid of the tumor. And that's the point I was at when I finally went in March. Now I had done talk therapy. You know, I had a therapist and I had taken the drugs, but they really didn't help. I had come off the last SSRI a few years ago just because it wasn't doing anything for me. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't helping me in any way. I didn't feel that it was helping to elevate my mood or do any of
I
that
didn't
other
feel anything.
stuff.
You know,
Yeah,
it cut off all my feelings. And I was like, I don't want to live like this either.
yeah, yeah. It was worthless. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, quit doing that. But I was still drinking, right? I was a minimum two bourbon a night guy. Uh, every night, weekends it was more.
Yeah.
Taking THC gummies to go to sleep at night every night. The first 7 years when I got back from Iraq, the last time I slept 3 hours a night for 7 years. So
That's
that's
insane.
no way to live.
No.
You can't function that way, not long term and not effectively. You can't be a good person. You can't do all the things you know you should be doing if you're sleeping that little. So I finally had the opportunity to go, and like I said, it was absolutely life changing, life affirming, life saving. All these wonderful things that plant medicine can provide to people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you, after listening to a few of your episodes, you have a baseline of really good discipline patterns. Certain things like you're physically fit, you do work out. I think one episode they called you the meditating Marine. And I thought that was pretty cool. So you have meditation in there, and then jujitsu. Jujitsu is one of my favorite aspects. I don't
Hmm.
think it's just a martial arts. I've seen places where they're trying to classify it as moving meditation. I just feel like it's so cerebral. Like you have to be present in the moment, you know, and if you're not present in the moment, then you get, so you
Right. You
get
get
tapped out.
choked.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So I was wondering, did you find after your experience in your retreat that you're getting more out of those, like working out, meditation, jujitsu, like you were getting more, like on a deeper level?
Yeah. I didn't meditate before I went. So the
Oh, awesome.
meditation came afterwards. So I got a, pardon me, I got a scholarship to go do the psychedelics. And the way it works is in this community of organizations that provide scholarships, it's pretty easy to get a scholarship if you have special operations in your background. EOD guys can typically get scholarships as well. But your average run of the mill soldier, Marine, sailor, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's really not. And that's part of what I'm trying to change is who gets the scholarships, right? So we'll treat soft, but you know, I would much rather have the bulk of the money that I raise going to guys who can't typically get a scholarship somewhere else. Yeah, so went down there, did the medicine, and came back. And as part of my scholarship, I was also given 10 one-on-one guided meditation coaching sessions
Oh,
with an
wow.
organization that does that. So it's veterans who are teaching other veterans how to meditate. And then I was also given 12 uh, integration, so psychedelic integration coaching sessions. And so all these things in combination help you to stay on that path, help you to integrate the medicine and continue to learn and grow. And you continue the good things, the good habits that you get from the psychedelic journey. You know, all those things it shows you that you should be doing or the things you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And you know, as you do some medicines and you learn to love yourself again or to not hate yourself, to let go of the anger and the guilt, you know, by meditating, you're just reinforcing that. And I had never meditated before. I didn't know how. I had tried, but when you go through these sessions where you're learning to meditate properly, it makes a huge difference. It's much better. And like I said, it just helps to continue what the medicine has shown you, that you're going to continue to incorporate what you've gained from your psychedelic journey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
helps it to last longer. You know, you can go and do these medicines, but if you don't put in the work afterward, if you don't continue that afterward, it can go away, right? It's got a shelf life.
It's not a magic pill.
No,
Yeah.
it's not a panacea by any stretch of the
Yeah.
imagination. You know, it's a catalyst
Mm-hmm.
and it helps a lot. You're
Yeah.
going to feel amazing for a few months afterward. But unless you're putting in that work to continue to grow and continue to learn the lessons, then it goes away, right? And then, you know, some people need a second dose. Uh, Typically not. Typically,
Yeah.
ibogaine can be a one and done. Now, I want to go do more. You know, I want to do ibogaine again. I want to do bufo again because I think there's more I can see. That
Yeah.
medicine, I don't think it showed me everything.
Yeah. You're not doing it
So
because it was really fun and exciting and you really want to do it again. You want to do it again to get work. You want to get the rest of it out,
yeah,
get deeper into
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
like
I
that.
Nobody's going to tell you ibogaine is fun,
Yeah. No.
and most people never want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to experience again. I want to see what else there is because I know there's more. I just
Right.
can't break through to it on my own. But going back to what you were asking about the uh the jujitsu and the meditation and calling it moving meditation, you know, you do have to be present just to learn jujitsu. You can't be thinking about something else while your professor or the coach is demonstrating a new technique. And one of the things that I found after I did my medicine journey was that I didn't have the kind of blockage that I had before, right? So my mind was more focused. I was clearer in every every way. So I was able now to learn new techniques faster, right? And
Yeah.
incorporate them more quickly than I ever could before. And I'm old, but I'm still able to pick these things up faster than I could before.
Mm-hmm.
So clearing your mind, having, you know, the ability to be present all the time, not just during jujitsu, but when you're with friends, you know, when you're talking to family, being present now is so much easier than it ever was before. You know, I don't even have to think about it.
Yeah. No, I remember before I started meditating and definitely before I've never went the route you did. I think I don't think mine was psilocybin. I did just over 5 grams because I was reading about the hero dose and wanted to do a neurological reset. And that was my experience with it. And I noticed it went from like chaos, pure chaos in my head
Mm-hmm.
to like it was quiet. And I was like, whoa, like what's going on here? As well as I've talked to a few doctors that work with psychedelics, and the best one that described it was like it's a snow globe, you know, and you shake it up. But if you don't do anything about the bottom and like the integral work and integrate all that into your life, it's all just going to settle right where it was. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's what I did. I integrated meditation, eating well, exercise, cut out a lot of the toxic stuff, you know. And I wanted to ask you, do you have any issues with alcohol after this? Anything
Yeah.
like that?
So when you go to the Mission Within and pretty much any of these clinics, whether it's the Mission Within or whether it's beyond, um, the requirement is that you stop drinking like 1 to 2 weeks, stop recreational drugs 1 to 2 weeks out, cut out caffeine, cut out um, sugars, right? Start eating a clean diet. And I was, so March 16th of 2024, I had my last drink.
Wow.
I've had no desire to have one since.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's powerful.
I don't, I don't take THC gummies at night anymore to fall asleep. I just fall asleep.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it's
I
really
still
amazing.
do a bit of that. And that's something I was, after talking to Jeremy, we got introduced by Jeremy. He reached out. I've done a little bit of work with his friend Nate and his podcast. And that's how I got connected. And his story was amazing. I'm like, I got to talk more to you guys because you guys are doing awesome stuff. I saw, I don't think it, I can't remember if it was you that mentioned it or if it was the website, but you guys have treated almost 1,000, or was it 10,000? It was a lot.
No,
Uh,
so my colleague Martin Polanco is a
yeah,
physician who really is the epicenter of veterans and ibogaine, right? He's the pioneer. He started all this, and Martin has treated, I think, over 1,200, 1,400 veterans using
yeah.
ibogaine and 5-MeO-DMT, or psilocybin if indicated, and 5-MeO-DMT.
Hmm.
So, the medicines aren't indicated the same for everybody, right?
Right.
So ibogaine primarily if you've had a traumatic brain injury, so mild TBI, um, and you can treat PTSD and other depressions or anxieties with psilocybin. You don't have to go as far as ibogaine,
Hmm.
but doing both of those either of those medicines, and then doing the 5-MeO DMT on the back end kind of helps you to integrate what you got from the psilocybin or the ibogaine with those harsher medicines showed you. And not that bufo can't be harsh, or it definitely can be,
Hmm.
but it's going to help you to open up a little bit more, integrate the experience from the other medicine, and then by kind of putting it all together, you can have a breakthrough of, have that aha moment, like what have I always been afraid of, or what is, what's holding me back, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I
you
think
know
that that was the coolest thing about psychedelics. It's, for me personally, it gave me an opportunity to see things in a perspective that I just refused to see it any other way. It removed the ego. And then without the ego, I didn't have anything to combat why I can't look at it that way. And then after that, I was able to just put it to bed and move on.
yeah, it makes a huge difference when you take the ego out of the equation, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
when you
He's a
kind of
bastard.
you kind of strip yourself raw, and you just look at all your flaws, right? Kind of as God sees them, and as God sees us, right? He sees those flaws, but he knows that somewhere in there is that perfect being that he created. And he's just, I think the medicines are maybe God's way of saying, let go of the ego. Just
Yeah.
let it go. Just be you. Be what I created. And and when you do that, it allows you to see others in the same way too, right? When you do these medicines, you learn to not only show grace for others, but you learn to give yourself a little grace. You understand that, yeah, God made me perfect, but my actions aren't always perfect. And, but I got to give myself a little bit of grace on that, because I'm not God, right?
Right.
I don't know what God would, I know what he would want me to do, but it's hard to do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give myself a little grace on this one, and I'm going to fix it next time.
Yep. Compassion
And
with yourself. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
tough one to do, especially people, like with your military background and that drive. Like in UD, we had the thing is initial success or total failure. So failing, it's hard if I fail. Like I really, I beat
yeah,
myself up pretty hard about it.
yeah. You know, it it's it's hard to be a perfectionist and not expect others to be the same way.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to understand that people are going to make mistakes, right? That I don't think any of us can ever achieve perfection. We strive to, right?
Yeah.
We strive for perfection, but are we going to achieve that? Have we done everything 100%? Have we scored that 100% on everything in life? And the answer is hell no, we haven't.
Yeah.
But you try to,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
I have a friend that had some issues with the VA, and it got pretty ugly, and they sent him to therapy and counseling for it. And he was talking to the counselor, and he's like, "I live my life at a really high standard." And he's like, "When I come in here for care, it's like you guys are just half-assing it." And he's like, "From my perspective, I know that you can live life at a higher standard, and I just don't know why you don't." And she's like, "I feel sorry for you." She's like, "I feel sorry that you are under that much stress every day, all day, to live at this extremely high expectation of yourself." And I feel like a lot of us do that. And then similar to what he was expecting, we expect that of others. And like you just said, it's not really realistic. And even us,
And
we're not successful.
it's okay, right, to set those goals,
Oh yeah.
right? But you have to set goals that are achievable too,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't set a goal of, okay, I'm going to go make $1 billion this year. That's insane,
Yeah.
right? I kill myself trying to do that.
Hmm.
But I can set an achievable goal.
Yeah.
Like I can say $5 million is the minimum I want to raise this year. That's definitely achievable, but it's also a really good goal, right?
Yeah.
I can help a lot of
A lot of
people
people.
with $5 million. And
Yeah.
we can do research, and we can, partner in studies with institutions like University of
Maps.
Texas,
Yeah.
MAPS, with Stanford.
Hmm.
That's what we're doing now. And so I want to be able to continue to do that work, because the outcomes are going to be what's going to get the government to take a uh, much deeper dive into this, and saying, "Oh yeah, this kind of makes sense." Now, people already are, right? Like you got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you got JD Vance, who went on Rogan, and when Rogan told him the benefits of ibogaine and the outcomes that we were seeing with veterans, and JD Vance said, "Well, then why the fuck aren't we doing this?"
100%. Because
Right?
they're all
It's like,
class one, so it's a
yeah, well,
felony to
they're
even have.
schedule,
Yeah.
yeah.
Schedule
So
one. Yeah.
these are all Schedule 1 drugs, and they're not drugs because you become addicted to drugs. You're not
Yeah.
going to become addicted to ibogaine. You're not going to become addicted to psilocybin. You don't become addicted to these things because you can't. You can't. I
Yeah.
think God designed them so you can't. They were designed just to be able to be there. If you need it one time, you take it and you use it to grow, right? You
Yeah.
grow psychologically, spiritually, all these benefits. And so to have them categorized as Schedule 1 drugs like heroin, that's
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah.
It's
No, I
idiotic.
agree. It doesn't
And,
make any
and
sense.
none. And so we have to get that changed. We have to get it changed, and veterans are going to be the path. You know, people seeing the benefits that this has for veterans is going to be the path to getting that change done. And there are definitely advocates for it out there, right?
Yeah.
Tons of advocates. You got U.S. representatives who have gone to the mission within. So Morgan Luttrell went to the mission within.
Yeah.
Um, Marcus went to the mission within. All these guys have gone through the mission within. That was how Martine started treating guys, was, mostly soft, mostly SEALs, because those were the first guys that he had that aha moment where he had a SEAL with a heroin addiction who he treated, and then his PTSD was gone too. And so it's like that's a light bulb moment. And that's when he decided he was going to start treating other veterans.
Do you think if you would have had access to this when you were in the military, it would have helped you or hurt you?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. And it's one I've discussed with guys a couple of times, a couple tier one guys, couple teams guys. And the it's kind of mixed, right? Because
Yeah.
it, you would go into that subsequent deployment with more clarity, but the way you look at people is so different that I can't say whether it would prevent you from pulling the trigger if you had to or not, right? Because you're
Yeah.
just looking at humans differently. Now,
I don't know about you, but I felt like I
I
was more
think,
interconnected with everything. Like
right,
we were all one. Yeah.
right. But knowing, you know, having other people there that I would be responsible for their lives, I say I could still do it, right?
I
That I
think.
would
Yeah.
be, my son, it's pretty funny. My son, when I came back from my retreat, was in Costa Rica with his mom for a couple of weeks. And so he came over for dinner a couple of weeks after I got back, and or when he got back from Costa Rica. And so I told him the whole story about my experience with Ibogaine and Bufo, and then I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry for having been such a shit dad for all those years and a crappy husband to your mom. And he said, no, it's okay. It's okay. I said, no, son, it's really not. I said, I
No.
wish
Yeah.
I'd have had this 20 years ago. And he says, he doesn't skip a beat. He goes, nah, then I'd have just been raised like a sissy. And I said to him, I said, no, that's not the case. I said, I'm still just as capable of extreme violence, but it's not how I look at things. I look at everything from a different lens now.
Yeah.
There I can't control what people are going to say or do, but now I have the tools to control my response to that.
Yeah.
I didn't have those tools before. And so I told him that if if you were in danger, if your life was in danger, that person would find out just how violent I can be,
Absolutely.
but that's not my go-to,
Yeah.
right? Like just because somebody's being an asshole in a car driving behind me or
Couldn't
something,
care less. Yeah.
I'm just going to smile at them, tell them to have a wonderful day. You know, I'm not going to react. There's no need to. There's
Yep.
no reason to. It could that can only end badly,
Yep.
and so why not just be nice?
Yep. I feel like mine used to be a switch. It was just on off, and it was on or for everything that was negative. There wasn't a spectrum. And I feel like now instead of going 0 to 10, like a switch, it's like 0.5, 1, 1.5. It's like a slow,
Yeah,
gradual build up. I have plenty of time to detach from the situation that's stressful or like, provocative. So we're running out of time. We got 20 minutes. I want to talk about mission within. So my
yeah,
favorite part about what you guys do, it's not just a retreat where you go willy-nilly and you start taking some things that people haven't ever heard of. Like you have an in process, in docking, You have some sessions beforehand. You have medical personnel on staff, which is a huge positive for anything related to ibogaine because of the cardiac issues. You do testing before they go down there. I was hoping you could talk
Yep.
about the pre and the post retreat process.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in attending a psychedelics retreat at the Mission Within, they go to the Mission Within website, hit the apply button. Their name becomes entered in a database. Somebody from the Mission Within team sends them an email with a Calendly link to set up a phone call, an intake call. Pardon me. We are actually so booked up right now. Those calls are getting scheduled out in February. So there's been a lot of publicity around what we're doing. There was the New York Times, front page in New York Times, feature article there. This latest podcast with Rick Perry, Governor Perry and Brian Hubbard on Joe Rogan. A lot of attention being brought to this. So we are inundated with applications.
Even Sean Ryan mentioned it the other day too.
Yeah, so Sean has undergone psychedelic therapy. He's a big fan of it,
Yep.
and so we've got, that's the first step. You have that intake call with one of the team from the Mission Within, and I'm not going to say one of our team because the Mission Within is the clinic side. They do all the treatment and the care. And then Mission Within Foundation, we raise the money to send people to the Mission Within or to Beyond or to whichever reputable clinic they're going to go to. So you do the intake call. Then if it seems like you're well suited for this, you have a call with a psychedelics nurse who does a health assessment to make sure that you're healthy enough just to go. So as you get closer to your retreat date, you'll have a few phone calls with a coach or a psychedelics therapist to help you with the prep work to get ready to go down to Mexico. And then the weekend of your retreat, if you live in San Diego, great. If you don't live in San Diego, you fly to San Diego that Thursday before. Everybody meets up on Friday, goes to Mexico in a van, goes to a house down in Baja. And when you get to the house, pretty much the first thing you do is medical assessment. So you have a nurse there who runs an IV so that they can push magnesium in the event that your QT interval on your EKG gets too long. The magnesium will help to shorten that and bring your heartbeat back into a more regular pattern. You also get an intake EKG. They check your blood pressure, blood work, and you piss in a cup to make sure that you are clean, that you haven't been drinking too recently, that you're not still using recreational drugs. You will have to have come off antidepressants, SSRIs a couple weeks before you go. So that's something else that we have to be very mindful of, is what medications is somebody taking, right? We have to know that, because certain medications and ibogaine don't mix. They don't play well together in the sandbox. So that's pretty much how it goes right up until the time you're going to do your medicine. The ibogaine is served very ceremonially on Friday night, but only after the cardiologist. So we have a Stanford trained cardiologist down at the Mission Within who is there throughout the night. So the cohort for that weekend is not allowed to take the ibogaine until the cardiologist is physically in the house. The entire time that you're in your ibogaine journey, you're hooked up to an EKG. You have an IV line in your arm. When you go upstairs after taking your ibogaine, you are laid in a bed and plugged into an IV. So they start pushing the magnesium at the outset, and they can just stop that as you sink into your journey. But if at any time your QT interval becomes too elongated, they can have a nurse or a doctor start pushing magnesium again. And there is a nurse and a doctor in the room with the retreat participants the entire time that they're on ibogaine.
That's awesome.
Plus, you've got the cardiologist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's extremely safe. We err on the side of safety, and you have to. And when it comes to partnering with other clinics or organizations that are serving medicine, I expect that they have, at a minimum, the same safety protocols in place that the Mission Within does.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much how it goes. You do the ibogaine Friday night, lasts about 12 hours. Some people it's a little bit longer. Saturday it's called grade A, don't do anything. Sunday you do your bufo. It's an individual experience, up to 3 doses of bufo. And then Monday everybody departs, goes back to San Diego. So post retreat, typically it's like 3 or 4 calls with the psychedelic therapist or coach. But we have a program now where I raised $1 million specifically for non-special operations Marines. That's to awesome. Go through. And what we're doing with them is, before they go to Mexico, they're speaking with a psychiatrist. So we're doing some assessments with them to make sure that it's safe for them to go, right? So part of that assessment is determining whether or not there's any schizophrenia, stuff like that we need to be concerned about. Talking about the medications that they're on, the psychoactive medications, and then are they a suicide risk? Do they have somewhere to go afterward? Are they at risk of homelessness? So doing these kinds of things. They're also getting the pre-coaching. And before we go down to Mexico, they are going for functional medicine testing. So we're getting their hormone levels checked. We're testing them for supplement deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, and we're paying then for the first round of supplements and peptides, and if indicated, TRT, so testosterone replacement therapy. They go through the retreat, same as everybody else, but on the back end, they're getting 12 psychedelic therapy sessions to help integrate, and they're also getting the 10 guided meditation coaching sessions.
That's awesome.
So it's a much more robust package, but it costs a lot more money too. So
you're the first one that's ever mentioned the supplements and ensuring you have the balance internally. I did a TBI program recently, and that was the first thing they did. They're like, blood work, let's get your supplements, we'll get all your levels right, and then after that we may be more aggressive.
It's huge. You gotta you gotta have, your body's gotta be right.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right supplements, if your hormones aren't in balance, you're not going to integrate the medicine as well.
Yeah, it's like changing one tire and you got 4 flats, you're only going to get so far. So we've talked a lot about Special Forces, now Marine Corps, but do you guys do veterans? Or not just veterans, but first responders? I do a lot with first responders too. And I think that they're as impacted as a lot of veterans. And I don't think it's talked about enough.
Our program is definitely open to first responders. I'll provide scholarships for first responders as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
As long as we have the money, we'll send them.
about
It,
that? How do people
I
donate?
think the well, I
Go
so
ahead.
before we talk about that, I think the
Yeah.
problem with first responders is that until they are retired or
Yeah.
until they leave
Oh
their,
yeah,
whether
absolutely.
it's their police department or fire department, that I don't know that they can go and do it. Right? It's
Yeah.
just like active duty military.
Yep.
Now, you could do it, not tell anybody, go back. It's not going to show up on a piss test.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, it's got like a half life of 30 seconds or something, right? It's like,
Yep.
at least as far as your analysis or something goes, it's just not going to show up. So, um, from that standpoint, they could do it. Just get the time off work, take a week of vacation, go and do it.
Yeah.
And it could be hugely beneficial. Um, so to donate to us, we have a website, missionwithinfoundation.org. And I think you can even go and donate through the Mission Within. So that's missionwithin.org. But we are still awaiting our 501c3 determination letter from the IRS. We applied for it in September. So we do work with fiscal sponsors. If anybody wants to donate to us, certainly you can do so on our website. I believe it will go through our fiscal sponsor so that you will get full credit for a tax deduction at the end of the year.
Awesome.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. More I like stealing percentages from whatever study that I like the best. I feel like there's tons of studies talking about psychedelics and its impact. You can go back as far as the 70s, but I saw one recently. It showed one iteration of Ibogaine is showing 80% about success rate of improving PTSD or eliminating it completely. And then two iterations of it's close to 97%. And I was like,
Yeah.
those are high percentages. And I was wondering, are you seeing that level of success?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have about 80 to 90%, we'll call it success rate,
Right.
positive
Reduce
outcome
incentives. Yeah.
with a single dose of Ibogaine and Bufo.
That's awesome.
So show me a pharmaceutical that's going to do that. And
None.
and honestly, that's the problem right there, right? It's a big pharma and the FDA are so tied at the hip, right? They're joined at the hip.
Yep.
You can't barely distinguish the difference anymore, right? One is supposed to be a regulatory agency, one is supposed to be a for-profit industry. And you can't barely tell which is which anymore because they are so joined at the hip.
Yep.
And until we get somebody like, hopefully, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can go in and bust that thing apart, just break it wide open to let the FDA get away from having their hand so far down into big pharma's pockets.
Yeah.
You know, then we can do something about this. Then there's hope that we can get this legalized here in the States. And Ibogaine is legal in 95% of the world.
Yeah.
There's only a few countries where it's not legal or at least decriminalized or legitimized,
And it
right?
can't be prescribed with a prescription here in the United States.
Yeah. So for, yeah, in some instances,
Limited. But yeah. Yeah.
very limited,
Showing that it
very
has
limited.
medical use, which debunks the whole argument to begin with, which drives me crazy.
Right. And so, you try to get this quote unquote Schedule 1
Yeah.
drug. It's not a drug, it's a medicine. And
Yep.
I hate calling it a drug. I don't like it when people call it a drug. It's not a drug. It's a medicine because it will heal you.
Yep.
Drugs make you sick. Medicines heal you. Where
Yep.
drugs keep you from getting well, which is, by the way, what big pharma creates.
It's alcohol, it's weed. Yeah.
We have a sick care problem in this country, not a health care problem.
Yeah. They want to keep you
Because
sick.
that's it. Because then you're dependent on the drugs that they make
Yeah.
to supposedly get well. And
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. And so we do need to broaden our minds. We need to cut out these ties between big pharma and the FDA. That stuff needs to happen right away. We got to get these, anybody in either the houses of Congress to stop investing in these companies. It's that bullshit has to stop.
Yeah.
And so, because how do you go from wherever it is you're from, right? And you become a U.S. representative. You make $174,000 a year. Let's say you do that for 3 terms. So you serve 6 years and you walk away with $10 million.
Yeah.
Where's that money coming from?
Yeah. Where'd it come from? Oh, that drives me crazy when I think about that real hard. I went to the VA and they gave me a huge list of prescription medications. It was like adrenaline blockers to keep me asleep, sleeping pills to put me to sleep, SSRIs to keep me mellow. It was just like a huge list. And when I took every one of them, like the immediate reaction within 3 days, I had the most intense suicidal ideations I've ever had in my life. And they're like, "Oh, well, that's an allergic reaction." And I was like, "That's a hell of an allergic reaction." It's
Right.
like no wonder a suicide rate in the veteran community is so high. But we're coming down the 4-minute warning. I don't want to keep you or waste your time.
No, not at all.
I want to create space. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to?
No, I think we did a good job of covering what we needed to. I think it was good discussion on Ibogaine and what we're doing at Mission Within Foundation. The goal is to save as many lives as possible.
Yep.
So I want to treat as many veterans as possible. Treat as many people with trauma as possible, whether it's with Ibogaine or psilocybin, just to try to make society a little bit better. Like I say on my Instagram, I'm just a regular guy, just trying to inspire people a little bit every day. And so if I can do that in the role I'm in now, awesome. This has become my life's purpose, to bring this medicine to as many people as want it, as need it, and to do it at no cost to them. So, definitely need people who are interested in this. They can reach out to me on my email, j@missionwithinfoundation.org. Happy to talk to anybody about this. If you are listening and you're a prospective donor and you need education, get in touch with me. I'll put you in touch with Martine Polanco, who's a physician who started all this, and we'll have a great discussion and fill you in on everything you need to know. But I guess if there's any message I can put out there for people, it's, just don't quit, right?
Yeah.
Never quit. Quitting is not the answer. I've been that guy who's put that gun in his mouth and thought about starting it, but fortunately I didn't, because now I have this purpose in life that I think is, for me, it's supremely fulfilling. What we didn't talk about is I've had cancer twice, right?
Yeah.
So I go through chemo once a month now, but that's just my path, right?
Yeah.
It's like people how can you do this and be happy? And well, what option is there? There is no option, right?
Yeah. This is the choice.
Don't worry. The other option's coming. It's coming when God says it's time. But in the meantime, you just live your life. You
make the best of what it is.
You accepted your path and you go, and you do the best you can, right? It's like in the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. One of the 4 agreements is always do your best.
I have that book on my couch right now.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to read it again. Yeah.
It's a great book, right?
Yeah.
And those concepts, they seem so simple, right? Be impeccable with your words. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems so basic, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy. In practice, it's not easy.
No. It takes discipline. I have one question that just popped in my
Yeah,
head. Did you struggle with
yeah, man.
suicidal ideations? And then after this medicine, did it improve?
Yeah, I don't know that I struggled with it a lot after my son was born.
Awesome. You had a
You
purpose
know,
bigger than yourself. That's badass.
yeah, that helped a lot, and that's probably what kept me from pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the only thing that kept me from pulling that trigger
Yeah.
that time. But yeah, I don't even think, don't, it's not even a
Yeah.
consideration, right? Like,
Yeah.
what could be that bad? You know,
Yep.
I can live with pain. I can live with hurt, with whatever, disappointment. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah.
It, there's just so much good out there every day. I wake up with gratitude every day. I'm just happy
That's awesome.
to be able to live this life that I live now. Yeah.
Yeah. I bring that up because I struggled really hard and I noticed that it went away. It improved a lot. And I only say that because a lot of people that I know who did take their own life, it's because they're tired. They're tired of feeling that way. They feel like it never gets better, it never improves, but it can. And that's the only reason I wanted to bring it up. There's ways to improve that. And I feel like psychedelics is one of the leading ways right now. I just wish we could get more support so it wasn't so hard to do. And with that, I'm going to
Yeah.
wrap it up. We're 1 minute over. Apologize. But thank you so
No,
much for your
perfect.
time. Thank
Yeah.
you so
My
much for the
pleasure,
positive
Jonathan. Yeah.
impact that you have in our community and other communities. And yeah, with that, you have an awesome day, sir.
Yeah. Thanks so much. You as well.